What we're going to talk about is threat hunting for emerging threats. Emerging threats being those things that we don't necessarily have IOC scores, TTP4s, we're just kind of looking for them to be a little bit proactive in our environment, trying to find something that maybe hasn't been found before or something that we just suspect happening. So, that's kind of what we're going to do here, do a little introductions here. First and foremost, I'm going to introduce Brian. Brian is our senior threat researcher with Logarithm Labs. Been with Logarithm Labs a little over a year and a half now.
Year, 10 months.
Year and 10 months. That's crazy.
Time flies when you have fun.
Yeah, so has a sordid history from the past, working with a very large corporation before. Did a lot of research looking into the threats within that environment, so it brings a lot of really good information and knowledge into our talk today, into the labs in general. So, here, Brian. All right.
Thank you. And this is Q. I'm also on the threat research team. Q just recently got masters from SANS. Awesome, good job there. And from here, he developed our threat research, our threat hunting methodology within labs, as well as primarily the most recent thing.
Yeah,
definitely. We're going to go right into it.
Awesome. Very cool. All right, so kind of the agenda that we're going to work on today, and we're really going to be looking at what is threat hunting. Some key concepts. A couple demos. We're going to let you kind of choose your kind of adventure and how this works. We're going to kind of feel engage the room, see what it is that you're interested in. We're going to go from there. We have a couple demos we're going to look at. We're going to do a quick little recap and do a question and answer. We're going to do this all in 20 minutes. Okay, so we have a question. Sound good? Awesome. So, first, let's talk about what is threat hunting.
Sure. Right. So, searching for the known unknowns. That's really what threat hunting is, right? You may know your environment, you may not know your environment. As an analyst before where I worked, I did not know the environment very well. So, of course, hunting was just part of the natural job, being inquisitive and looking for the threats that are within the logs that you're put up.
So threat hunting kind of involves into two different kinds of things. You have threat hunting, and then you also have threat protection. So we kind of break things out into where you're hunting, you're actually looking, you're actually searching, you're actually trying to find evidence of things, being that proactive sort of step. Example, so Spectre Meltdown, that was a pro-hunting, find. I mean, we actually look through that and say, oh, that's the actual vulnerability. The system can actually do some hard caching of memory dumping and find information out of memory. It's really pretty interesting. That was an example of threat hunting. And then it devolves, once you find that little piece of information, then it moves into detection. Now you tell someone else about that particular piece of threat hunting or that thing that you found, and now you're no longer threat hunting. Someone else is necessarily threat hunting. They are now looking for those indicators. They are now those things have been put into your IDS, they've been put into your AD and your those IOC-based rule detection systems. So no longer threat hunting just became easier for everybody else, right? So in my perspective, you're no longer actually hunting anymore. You are now just using the tool and just reacting at that point again. So threat hunting is kind of like that beginning first bit that you're actually curious about something. Can this actually be a vulnerability? Is this something I'm actually seeing in my environment? And you just kind of move on from there. Does that make sense? I I'm off. Okay. Oh, and then here, they finally want to do that.
Sure. It is hard, right? You really do have to change the known unknowns into knowns. But you need a SOC skill set as an analyst. You also need to understand malware. You need to understand the network and system forensics. You have a lot of skills that you have to have in there. So definitely having a team member or a few that also have specific skill sets in those is very helpful. Having one person as a one-man shop, knowing everything about forensics and malware and everything is pretty difficult. So it is hard to do threat hunting.
But you can do it all, and that makes it really cool. We kind of wanted to jump into key concepts here, and before we can really do a lot of key concepts, we have to kind of know what it is that we're looking for. And before we can know what it is we're looking for, we have to know what our environment it is. And so this is a kind of a device or a tool that we can use, and I can make sure that they can hand this out. It's on community underneath threat hunting procedures. These are just log sources that we recommend having for you in order that you should have in your environment so you can help define some of these things. I mean, network devices, security perimeter devices. Do you have IDS? Do you have endpoint systems? Do you have email management systems and all that? I mean, so it kind of just a little checkbox each one of these pieces. We're focusing specifically within this talk solely. It's kind of hard about threat hunting because there's so many different aspects and routes you can go down. But we're going to focus specifically on sysmon logs and PowerShell logs just because they kind of give you the most bang for your buck. And you can find some really interesting things that aren't always detected right away, or they lead to a lot of false positives. But going through here, there's nothing stopping you from doing, get your Linux systems, get get your door lock messages, all your hot logs and host logs and security logs, get those endpoint systems, all your internal systems, get your core systems that we should all have, all this information for anyway. You need to have all the log sources in, and they all need to be coming in a way that's actually definable. You understand what they're doing, you understand how they're working. So when these anomalies come in, and you're wondering, it's like, well, yeah, it's a really cool command line, but isn't that normal? Well, you should be able to answer that question. Is it normal for your environment? It's different than yours and yours and yours and yours, but you have to know your environment. And so these are just, you have to have these. This is like level 1. If you're going to threat hunt, you have to know your logs. You have to know your environment. How many people here know all of your environment? All of it? No.
Nice.
The important thing here, though, is keep calm and keep it simple, right? I mean, it's so easy to get frustrated. It's so easy to get overwhelmed with so much data, and it's hard to get, and it's easy to have so much data or have no data, and you're kind of like, well, I can't find anything. But just answer questions, ask questions, and then just be like, how do I answer them? It's like I really want to know user behavior. What do I need to have? If you know what it is that you're looking for, that's the first step. So be proactive. Keep it simple. It's an important thing. And then I'm going to just jump on this one. Let's just pass it over to you. Threat hunting kind of falls into a lot of different categories. So you can get really data science really fast on it. But there's 4 terms that I really want to hit home when we're doing this. And it's searching, it's clustering, it's grouping, and it's stack counting. We're going to have examples of how LogRhythm does each one of these things in different aspects. But I mean, these are the 4 pillars of threat hunting, if you would. You have to be searching for information, so everything has to be searchable. Everything has to be indexed in a certain way. You have to be able to do custom searches on queries that you want. You have to be able to cluster data into like knowns. So you have to know what you're having in your environment, and that way you can find outliers and things of that nature. You have to be able to group data by type. Okay? If you can't group data by type, you're not going to be able to know what's similar and what's not similar. Then you have to be able to do stack counting. What kind of, how much of one thing do I see versus how many of another things do I see? So all these things are just, theoretical like ideas or constructs, but you have to know each one of these things, each one of its little segments in order to identify anomalies or something that's odd or strange in your environment.
All right, so we're going to cover searching. So searchings are typically investigations based on unique occurrences. And of course, you want to use caution. You want to keep your scope, right? So too broad, you're going to get a lot of results. You're going to get a lot of information that you're not going to be able to sift through very easily. Too narrow, you're not going to get enough information back. You're going to miss out on some key artifacts that you need to be able to pivot off of, possibly. Things to search for. Outbound connections for suspicious processes. Child processes originating from common OS processes. Things that are normal in your environment, but yet abnormal. Also, authentication sources are really good as well too, but definitely SVC host, event viewer, explorer.exe, redcert, etc. Basically, pivoting off of things that can be useful in your environment. Registry key modifications, run and run once keys, and so much more. Basically, anything in your environment that sticks out like a sore thumb probably is something for you to chase down. So here's some examples. So this is how in LogRhythm you would do a search and investigation within a web UI. In the last 24 hours, we have it looking for known applications of DNS, ICMP, FTP, and also we're doing direction of outbound traffic. So we're looking for connections that are initiating from inbound to external to the internet. And also we're looking for the host impacted is where it's greater than or equal to 1,000. So this is a great starting point. You're not pulling back too much logs. You're pulling back just enough for you to actually populate the web UI and be able to, as an analyst dashboard, be able to investigate further on some suspicious activities. Again, over here, we're looking for parent processes. We have our parent process list of stuff that we're looking for, like SVC hosts, event viewers, items that we covered
Just
before.
a quick thing on this one. How many of these should actually be parent processes? How many of these particular Windows processes actually create a process or legitimately use another process? Is that common? Probably, right? So, I mean, event viewer, why would event viewer be doing something, right? So you're looking for things, and the whole point of this one is to look at standard Windows processes, events, things of that nature, and say, are these creating processes? Especially why is calculator launching command? Why is calculator launching PowerShell? Just for an ad-hoc example, right?
Absolutely. No, thank you. All right, and over here again, we're looking for some common things to look for. Common event, object modified, entity rule name, where we're looking for registry value is set. And this is something within Microsoft Sysmon, Event ID 13. And also we're looking for anything in the message around run once. Over here again, we're looking for process name of Notepad, calc. We just talked about a few of those examples. So again, things that are interesting that shouldn't normally be a parent process, or is it spawned underneath the proper parent process?
And if network connections are running out.
Definitely, yeah. So Notepad.exe should not be initiating an outbound connection over the internet, typically, right? Yeah, let's get into clustering.
Yeah, so clustering is a cool one. I really enjoy clustering. I think it's kind of an interesting thing. So the standard definition of clustering is from a mathematical perspective. You have one point and then another point, and how far apart mathematically are those 2 points from each other, or how similar or dissimilar they are. So when you start looking at very large aspects of it, you start running into things like density clusters, you start running into things like centrality systems. So what you're looking for here is you're looking for large sets of data that are actually saying how close, tight-knit are these particular systems, and then are there any far-wire outlying pieces? And I'll have some visual diagrams go into this in a second. Or how many pieces are actually so tight on this particular system. And so you're really doing outliner systems, you're really looking for heavy densities of systems. And you can find outliers within a cluster, within a tight-knit cluster, if just something just looks too similar to something else that shouldn't be there, or if something's too far away from something that shouldn't be there. So large data sets are typically used for these. When we think of, like machine learning or threat hunting or AI or anything like that, they're primarily doing clustering type analysis. And you typically really large sets of data, typically with very similar sets of information that just have like 1 or 2 bits that are off of each other. Like I said earlier, it's very outline detection. It's very similarity detection based. So here's kind of a couple visual examples of that. Should I come on here? So this is a pretty simple thing. This is something called an eigenvector. So primarily what we're looking at here is we're looking for the similarity between these systems. These are really close to each other. They share commonalities. These, like A, is very different from F and E. And because these 3 are shared together, B is going to have a little bit higher similarity to B and E and F because of the proximity between those 2 systems. So it's a very simple sort of cluster. And then you start doing multiple relationship clusters in here. So this is a hub and authority. You can see here that E has a lot of things calling it. It's only talking back and forth to F. B has also a lot of things calling it. So when you start seeing another node out here or something like that, or C all of a sudden start getting a lot of K, J, I, and F, talking to it, it's going to be kind of suspicious, right? So you're doing things like this where you're like, what are the hubs, what are the centers of communication, and what's talking to it, not talking to it. Kind of quick examples of that. This is the one that probably everybody has seen. It's like, whoa. It's a perpetual enigma or a K clustering sort of a graph. So this is where you have lots of data sets. You can see that we have specific clusters in here. You can see in here that you have a little red circle here, red circle here. You have a blue circle right up here, green circle in here, where it's the same data set, but it's actually lying within specific clusters. So these are things that are actually really interesting. This is outside the environment. Like that one is like really cool to me because it's trying to masquerade as something else. That might be something that I look into. That makes sense? So logarithm, how does logarithm actually see this? Logarithm can actually see this with just a simple network graph, right? You can actually see where systems are actually calling from. You're clustering data based upon commonality. In this case, this particular example is just with like network connection or network origins, right? You can also do it by your impacted systems and why is, well, this one, like why is there only impacted going over there? Why is the impacted happening? Just kind of interesting. Does that make sense? All right, grouping.
All right, so grouping. Grouping unique values, which happens multiple times, and differs from clustering. Grouping is a predefined set of values and traits, and it differs from searching. Grouped events of a unique value, not one-off values. So examples: external IP addresses, process names, user actions, time window actions, command line prompts, so forth. So here's some examples of grouping. Within the web UI, definitely this is an awesome dashboard that you developed. This is creating around our Microsoft Sysmon, so it's Microsoft Sysmon events. So we're grouping examples around like process changing registries, process terminations, process creating pipes, and now you're looking at the top 10, top 15, top 20,
Or the bottoms.
or the bottoms, depending upon how you flip it. So definitely seeing it this way, it helps you also to visualize what is normal in your environment, maybe abnormal in your environment.
All right. Well, sorting and stack counting. last kind of 4 things. This is the last major one before we start going to some examples. So what Stack kind of does is we're still grouping, but this one is for large data sets. We're looking at things. Use cases for this one are a particular number of occurrences, particular types or sets of data that we're having through, like particular processes that are running in your environment, your long tail and short tail analysis. What are the most prevalent systems in your environment, and what are the least prevalent systems in your environment? You have to be able to count individual unique things. There's nothing differentiating about these. They're just counting values. That's all you're trying to do. Most and least. Pretty straightforward on that one. So one thing about stack counting is it changes data sets over time. You might see something being really high or really low at one point in time, and then it shifts in perspective. So you have to be able to catch things a little bit faster between how they work with each other. And one thing that's really important with the stack counting is it needs to have a very thoroughly filtered input data set. You have to be narrowed down to a very specific thing that you're looking for. You want a specific process or a specific user or a specific, something of that nature. I'm looking for individual pieces on that. It's not very good with outliers or secondary, tertiary things. Does all make sense so far? Like here? All right, so here's some examples. This one I used again, this is SysOne data set, this one specifically registry values. You can see here that my local class settings, NY cache, language list, I had 51,000 particular registry hits on that particular system, where you can see I'm also using Explorer.exe is hitting something really heavily. So I'm narrowed it down to a very specific log source with a very specific message. I want 13 specific on that one, which is registry value changes. So I'm looking for a very specific set, and when do those things change, right? So again, you have to know your environment. You have to know which registry keys hit, like more frequently than not. Okay, so you have to, it takes a little bit of labeling, but that's that one. Straightforward? Cool. Demo time. So now we're going to do demo. So we have 3 demos that we can have. I kind of want to judge your opinion on how we're going to do some of this. We have kind of a start to finish, like looking at a specific event that's executed and then going through the entire process, and then actually finishing with an outcome and how we can wrap case and UI and all of logarithm functionality to it. I'm going to go through this one. Then we have PowerShell, or we have parent processes, so 2 different kind of ones. And then, but these are not very isolated to showing the actual attack. It's more of using logarithm functionality through web UI to actually find these things. So what's your kind of preference? Do you want to actually go through the full set and see beginning to end?
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Let's do that.
Let's jump into it.
All right. So we're going to do this. It should auto expand. There it is.
All right, so the first thing we're going to do is start with AIB to be able to do a hunt.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries at all. Okay, so I'm using AIB to do a hunt in here where I'm looking for something very specific of interest to me, and I want to see if it ever fires in our environment. So this is kind of like a known unknown, right? I'm not expecting this to fire in my environment. I am now triggering AIB to look for this type of activity in here. And so now my initial hunt is going to start when I get an AIB alert. Over here, we're choosing all the different things we want to be able to have in our summary, as far as the alert summary. So in the AI summary fields, we can actually choose to get a lot more information than just by the group by. So group by, of course, if certain logs and events don't have that information, of course, they'll never fire, but summary fields, you can actually contain a ton more information. So now we're flipping over to Metasploit. We're going to do an interpreter attack against a test system, just for demonstration purposes over here. We're doing a PsExec exploit just to be able to test this type of activity and get the logs off the system. We're going to run through real quickly where we're going to dump the hashes off the system, which will trigger some interesting activity. Also, we're going to then be doing a few more hash dumps off here as well. So we do that one. The next thing we're going to try is Mimikatz, just to run Mimikatz on the endpoint as well too. And then, of course, we're doing a built-in hash dump within Interpreter. Can we get more familiar with Interpreter, do it in their environments? New people? Okay, excellent. I mean, it's a great tool to be able to then test a lot of your AI rules, as well as be able to demonstrate how certain things will be able to be detected using especially Microsoft Sysmon. So here we generated our alert, right? So here we're saying suspicious outbound PowerShell, possibly malware. With the summary fields, we get a ton more information than just the limited group bys I chose earlier. So off of here, as an analyst, I can actually take a lot more information directly from the alarm summary and be able to action it right away. But in this case, we're going to go more into the threat hunt aspect of it. We're going to create an actual case with this to start your threat hunt. This will help you with metrics as well to determine how long does it take to actually do your threat hunting. And then this will help you demonstrate that either you need more resources, you need more time to do threat hunting, or maybe you're getting faster at it as time goes on.
I want to stop you just for a quick second. Oop, did it stop you? Did you go back?
That's okay. That's all right. It's my
All right, so I'm going to say something really fast. So you can do threat hunting. So what I said earlier is that so threat hunting is really kind of like finding something unique in your environment, something you weren't expecting to do before. We started this threat hunt off with an AIDO1, right? Now, typically, in my opinion, it's not necessarily threat hunting, but what we're looking for in this aspect is we're saying we had an outbound connection from PowerShell by any other kind of system that you're looking for. Typically, that is odd. I mean, you should never be having that. So, I mean, you can start a threat hunt off something that you actually know is just suspicious in nature. So it's pretty straightforward. It's just prompting the question for you instead. You just kind of read out the questions and preload them, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely. Thank you, Q.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, so from here, we're starting a case. We're going to just add in general information about the particular alarm that came through. And again, this is helping us with metrics, but also being able to help us reproduce and show and demonstrate our actual hunt and what we're trying to accomplish here. Of course, there was a playbook section on there. We can talk about that later. It was recorded in an earlier session if you're interested in playbooks. But case tags, that's really kind of a key component in this as far as like being able to show your metrics as to how you're doing on the threat hunt when you get into your case analytics. All right, so now we're going to do a drill down into the actual AIE alert. And from here, we're going to get our logs back, right? So off of this one particular instance, we should get one log back. And we're going to see that in this particular dashboard. This dashboard is our Microsoft Sysmon dashboard that we'll be releasing later this month. It's just quickly showing all the different events and everything from Microsoft Sysmon. Here we're going to use the Mega Grid. We're going to take a look at the actual log that came through. And of course, also here's some more detailed information about the actual log that came through. We see the host that was attacked as far as like origin. So we see origin of 110, that's a known system, actually going to an IP address that's an unknown system. We're getting a lot of information over here. We're getting port 4444, which is, of course, is an interpreter, right? Where the interpreter shell is common port. I didn't change it. We're getting some additional information over here that our primary log source is Microsoft's Sysmon, so that's good. And something that we're going to use to pivot off into here in a little bit.
Everybody should be using Sysmon 8 by now. Those really have some good water, that's some good, some parsers for it.
Absolutely. We're going to come out with a configuration for Microsoft Sysmon guidance for logarithm customers here shortly, towards the end of the month. We're going to add this evidence into the case to show this is our starting point and that this log information is valid for beginning our deconfliction around if this is false positive or true positive. So we're going to add it to the case. We're going to now, just demonstrating as far as like the log that we're going to pivot off into. So again, we're using Microsoft Sysmon and the Windows source Windows 10. And we're going to contextualize it further. We're going to drill into all events around Windows 10 Microsoft Sysmon. Again, that concept of bringing a lot of data back so you can then action it further and drill into it more. But also we're going to take it one more step. We are going to drill down a little bit more. We know what else we want to look for. We know we also want to include PowerShell in this. So we're also going to add PowerShell to our threat hunt. We're going to then search using, again, Windows 10, Microsoft Sysmon, as well as pivoting off the PowerShell process. It's quickly searching.
Good search.
Yes, some searching music. Great, you did a little bit. Anyway, it will return here shortly with our information on here.
Real-time searching.
Yes, it is real-time searching. Really real-time searching.
There it is.
All right. Back from our pivot. And off of here, we see now that we have a log back for startup and shutdown process information. We also see the same thing that we had before, the network activity, but also we have some additional information in here now. Not only network traffic again, there's a process startup and shutdown, which is going to be key in our search here. Because this is going to contain a lot of information, including like hash information. But we're going to take both of these logs, we're going to add them into our case, again, to contextualize it further, so we can demonstrate exactly, okay, well, these two items are related in our threat hunt. And it's something that we can pivot off of even further. With Microsoft Sysmon, there's also a key component in there that is going to have a session ID. And a session ID is very useful that will help contextualize further exactly where did that log in relation to other activity on the system occur. So you can actually pivot off of a session ID, which is something of interest. But network activity does not contain that session ID. So that's why we had to pivot off of the PowerShell process.
Any questions so far? I mean, so we're just using, just Logarithm itself, just the tools that are available, trying to, quantify, data that we're finding, adding it to cases so we can have some good information go through.
Microsoft Sysmon is going to contain all the information as far as the shell information that came through from PowerShell. Yes, sir.
Okay, so if you deployed Sysmon to all your clients, I mean, how much traffic does that alone generate?
So that's why we're providing guidance as far as like configuration guidance on there. Just as a quick note on there, again, session, that's a key thing to point out on our Microsoft Sysmon while this is playing through, while I'm answering your question too. So during a test, for example, one workstation can generate 100,000 messages per second. Okay, this is an enormous amount of information. You need a lot of logarithm in order to absorb this. On the other side of it, what we've done is we've tuned it. So we've tuned it a lot to very specific actions that we know are malicious. This is our guidance that we're going to be providing to customers, and it's up to you and your environment to make sure that you tune it. We'll give you guidance on how to tune it, how to look for it, especially using Kibana, so the OpenVX platform using Kibana, and being able to really tune your Microsoft Sysmon log sources. So it should really.
Yeah.
What is that? Trying to go to the next one?
Is that a 10? That's over.
It is.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was a little fast, so thank you. That's all we have on that one.
And then 23, so